The planet was loud, hot, and strange, and Evan could feel his heart pounding in his chest. He had never been this far from Earth, never stood among creatures taller, stronger, and more dangerous than he could imagine. The alien warriors around him moved with an ease and confidence that made him feel clumsy, small, almost invisible. And yet, here he was, assigned to assist them, because humans, as rare as they were in this sector, had skills the aliens could not replace. Evan adjusted the straps on his backpack and tried to focus on the task at hand. He was a technician, a problem solver, not a fighter. His hands were meant for machines, for fixing, for calculating, not for swinging weapons or deflecting energy blasts. But duty had brought him here, and he would do his best. "Move faster, human!" a voice shouted. It was sharp, commanding, and unmistakably alien. Evan turned and saw Lyra striding toward him, her armor gleaming under the harsh sunlight. Her body was tall and powerful, every movement controlled and purposeful. Her eyes were large and bright, scanning the battlefield as if nothing could escape her notice. She had a presence that demanded attention. Evan flinched slightly, feeling himself shrink under her gaze. I'm trying," he muttered, his voice barely audible over the noise of the planet's surface and the shouts of the other warriors. Lyra's expression softened for a fraction of a second. She crouched slightly, lowering herself to meet his gaze. "Trying is not enough. You must act, move, think, live." Her voice had a strange rhythm, almost musical but sharp enough to cut through hesitation. Evan swallowed hard. "Yes. I will." Before he could take another step, a sudden explosion shook the ground. Dust and debris flew into the air, and Evan stumbled, nearly losing his footing. A bright beam of energy cut across the space where he had been standing a moment before. He froze, unable to react, his heart hammering like a drum. In the chaos, Lyra moved like a shadow, swift and precise. Without warning, she reached for him, grasped his arm, and yanked him close against her massive shield. The cold metal pressed against his back, the vibrations from the impact of nearby blasts sending shivers through his body. Evan's mind went blank. He could feel the warmth of her body behind him, the strength radiating from every inch of her. He had never been this close to an alien before, and his instincts screamed to pull away, to retreat. But the shield was firm, and her grip was unyielding. "Stop freezing, human!" Lyra shouted over the noise. Her voice was urgent, but not unkind. "You survive if you move with me, not alone." Evan nodded, even though he barely understood what she meant. Together, they moved, Lyra shielding him from the blasts, dragging him along as she ducked and weaved through the chaos. For the first time, Evan saw how a warrior like her could turn danger into a dance, how every movement was calculated and precise. He tried to match her pace, but he stumbled more than once, and each time she steadied him, pulling him tightly against her again. Finally, the enemy fire ceased, the ambush over almost as quickly as it had begun. Evan's knees shook and he struggled to catch his breath. His hands were smudged with dust and scorch marks, and his uniform was torn in places. He had survived, yes, but he felt like a child who had wandered into a storm. Lyra released him from her shield, but she didn't step away. She tilted her head, studying him. Her large eyes were curious, almost amused. "Why do you humans hesitate so much?" she asked, her tone softer now. "Fear is normal, but you stop yourself before you even try." Evan rubbed the back of his neck, unsure how to answer. We think first," he said slowly. We don't always act on instinct like you do." Her expression flickered with something he could not name. "Thinking is good, but action is better. Life does not wait for thought." Evan swallowed again, feeling his cheeks warm. She had no idea how strange it was for a human to be this close to an alien, how overwhelming her presence felt. but he couldn't say that. He didn't want to sound weak. I'll try to be faster next time, he said instead. Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. Good. You will need more than speed. You will need courage. You have it, human. I see it. But you hide it. For the next few hours, they moved together through the alien camp. Lyra introduced him to the other warriors, and though many eyed him curiously, none challenged him directly. Evan was careful, speaking only when spoken to, moving only when needed. He watched Lyra work, saw how she communicated with her team with gestures, sounds, and expressions that humans could barely imitate. At one point, a group of young alien recruits tried to push past him in a drill, expecting him to flinch. Evan, remembering Lyra's words, planted his feet firmly and moved with a bit more confidence than before. The aliens stopped, surprised by his sudden decisiveness. Lyra watched from a distance, her eyes bright. "Better," she murmured. As night fell, the alien camp glowed with soft lights. The sky above was dark, filled with stars unfamiliar to him, stretching endlessly over a world that was both terrifying and beautiful. Evan sat quietly near the edge of the camp, cleaning his equipment. He felt exhausted, but strangely exhilarated. Lyra approached him, her armor clicking softly with each step. She knelt down beside him, close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her. "You will need rest, human," she said simply. I can't sleep easily here," Evan admitted. It's all so strange." She looked at him with something like understanding. "You must learn to adapt. Fear makes you small. Adaptation makes you strong." Evan nodded, unsure if he could ever truly be strong like her. But just being near her, being protected by her, gave him a strange sense of security he had never felt before. Suddenly she reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. It was firm, grounding, yet gentle. "Do not hide from me, human. Stop being so shy. You will need to trust if you are to survive here." Evan's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure what to say. He had never been this close to an alien, and certainly not one who radiated such force and confidence. He wanted to pull back, but somehow he didn't. There was something in her presence that made hesitation seem foolish. I'll try," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Try is not enough," she said, a playful note creeping into her tone. "You will learn, human. You will grow, and I will make sure of it." Evan felt a mixture of fear, awe, and curiosity. He didn't know what she meant, but he knew one thing. His life on this planet, with these aliens, would never be the same. As the night deepened, Lyra stood and placed her massive shield beside him. "Tomorrow we begin training," she said. "You will not hide. You will not hesitate, and you will learn to move with me, not behind me." Evan looked at her, feeling a strange surge of determination. He didn't fully understand how he would survive this, how he would keep up, or how he would ever match her courage. But for the first time, he felt a spark inside him, a spark that maybe, just maybe, could grow into something stronger. And as he watched Lyra stride off into the glowing alien camp, moving with grace and power that made the ground itself seem alive, he realized that this strange, terrifying, and magnificent world was no longer just a battlefield. It was a place where he might finally learn who he truly was, and what he could become. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing for sure. He would face it, and he would not hide. Not while she was near. Not while the alien woman who pulled him against her shield had shown him that courage came in many forms, and that even the smallest human could stand tall. The next morning, the alien sun rose over the jagged horizon, painting the battlefield in shades of red and gold. Evan woke to the sound of distant clangs and shouts, the daily drills of the alien warriors echoing across the camp. He rubbed his eyes, still feeling the tightness in his chest from the previous day's ambush. His mind replayed every moment, every blast, every heartbeat when Lyra had pulled him against her shield. He stood and adjusted his equipment. Today, he reminded himself, he would follow her instructions without hesitation. There was no room for shyness here. Not with Lyra watching, not on this dangerous planet. When he stepped out of his small shelter, Lyra was already waiting. She stood at the edge of the training ground, her shield resting against her side, her arms crossed, and her eyes sharp and focused. Her presence was commanding, as always, and Evan felt his nerves tighten. "You are late," she said simply, her voice calm but edged with steel. "But you are here. That is good." I'm ready," Evan replied, trying to sound confident, though his stomach twisted with nerves. Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. "Ready is not enough. You will be tested. You will be pushed. If you fail yourself. Understand?" "Yes," Evan said, nodding. Without another word, she led him into the training area. The field was vast, with obstacles of metal and stone, energy shields, and towering structures for climbing. Other alien warriors moved through drills, practicing attacks and defenses, their movements precise and intimidating. "First lesson," Lyra said, her voice firm. "Do not hide, observe, move, react, trust your instincts, and trust me." Evan swallowed hard. This was more than he had expected. Lyra did not coddle, did not guide gently. She expected him to keep up or fall behind. The first exercise was simple in theory, but terrifying in practice. Lyra moved through the obstacles with ease, and Evan had to follow her as she demonstrated how to climb walls, leap across gaps, and dodge energy beams. Evan stumbled repeatedly, his hands scraping against metal and stone. His muscles ached and sweat stung his eyes. "Stop thinking too much," Lyra shouted over the noise of the drills. "Move with me! Do not hesitate!" Evan tried to focus, but his mind kept racing. What if he fell? What if he slowed her down? What if he failed completely? Then she reached for his arm, just like the day before, and pulled him against her shield. The contact was firm, grounding him. Her voice softened slightly. "Do not fear failure, human. Fear keeps you small. Trust yourself." Evan nodded. The sensation of being pressed against her shield, steady and strong, gave him a strange confidence. For the first time, he felt as though he could move with purpose, not just react out of fear. The rest of the morning was a blur of drills and exercises. Lyra corrected his posture, guided his hands, and even demonstrated how to anticipate movements in combat. Evan learned quickly that her methods were demanding, but effective. By the end of the session, he could climb obstacles faster and dodge beams more efficiently. He was still slower than the alien warriors, but he was improving. During a short break, Lyra handed him a small device. "This is a scanner. It detects energy fluctuations. You will need it to anticipate traps and enemy attacks. Use it wisely." Evan took it carefully, examining its alien symbols. I think I understand," he said. "You will understand through practice, not thought," Lyra replied. "Now, we continue." The afternoon brought more challenges. Lyra devised a series of tactical exercises, pairing Evan with different alien warriors. Each exercise tested his reflexes, his problem-solving, and his ability to stay calm under pressure. Time and again, he stumbled, but each time, Lyra corrected him, guided him, or pulled him against her shield to protect him. It was exhausting, but Evan began to notice something remarkable. He was learning. Slowly, steadily, he was becoming more confident. His movements were less hesitant, his mind sharper, and his fear more manageable. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep purple and orange, Evan was spent. His muscles ached, his uniform was dirty, and sweat coated his body. Yet despite the exhaustion, a sense of pride swelled in his chest. He had survived the day. He had grown stronger. Lyra approached him again, her eyes studying him carefully. "You did well today," she said. "Better than yesterday. You are learning." "Thank you," Evan said, feeling a warmth in his chest at her praise. I couldn't have done it without you." Her expression softened just a little. "Do not mistake my guidance for weakness, human. I push because you can endure. You surprise me. Humans are unpredictable in ways I respect." Evan blinked. He had expected her to be critical, not complimentary. "Unpredictable?" he asked. "Yes," she said simply. "You do not follow patterns. You think differently. That is your strength." The next day, Lyra introduced him to real tactical simulations. They were not live combat, but controlled exercises that mimicked enemy attacks. Evan had to react quickly, use his scanner, and even coordinate with Lyra to deflect attacks and rescue fellow warriors. At first, he struggled. He froze several times, his fear making him hesitate. But each time, Lyra's voice cut through the chaos, reminding him to trust himself, and each time, he responded better. During one particularly difficult simulation, a fake energy blast struck near him, and he instinctively ducked, only to knock over a control panel. Panic surged through him. "I ruined it!" he shouted. Lyra didn't scold him. Instead, she pulled him against her shield again, the metal pressed against his back, firm and steady as she said, "Mistakes are lessons, human. You learn by acting, not by fearing." Evan's panic ebbed slightly, replaced by determination. He corrected the panel, recalibrated the scanner, and completed the simulation successfully. The alien warriors observing them murmured in approval. By the end of the week, Evan had changed noticeably. He moved faster, acted more decisively, and even laughed a little at Lyra's teasing. The once shy human was becoming someone the aliens could respect, someone who could stand beside them, even if he was still smaller and weaker than all of them. Lyra noticed the change, too. One evening, as they walked back to the camp after a long day of training, she spoke quietly. "You are different, Evan. You carry yourself differently. Humans often hide in shadows, but you begin to shine." Evan smiled, a little shyly. I'm just trying to keep up." "No," she said firmly. "You are more than trying. You are growing. And one day, you may be more than you imagine." He looked at her, her armor reflecting the last rays of the alien sun, and felt something stir inside him, a mixture of admiration, curiosity, and something he could not name. Her confidence was intimidating, but also inspiring. Her straightforward way of seeing the world was a lesson he had never learned. That night, as Evan lay in his small sleeping chamber, he thought about the lessons of the day. He remembered the weight of her shield, the sound of her voice, the strength that radiated from her every movement. He realized that being close to her had forced him to change, to move beyond fear, to act with courage he did not know he had. For the first time since arriving on this alien world, he felt that he belonged. Not completely, not yet, but enough to know that he could grow. And he knew that Lyra, in her own way, had shown him that he was capable of more than he had ever believed. The next morning, he awoke ready to face whatever she would throw at him next. The battlefield, the drills, the alien world itself were dangerous and unfamiliar, but Evan felt a spark of confidence, a spark that might one day become a flame. Lyra approached, shield at her side, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Today," she said, "we test more than skill. We test courage. You will act not because you must, but because you choose to. Are you ready, human?" Evan took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and nodded. "Yes, I'm ready." Her smile was small but sharp, like a blade glinting in sunlight. "Good. Then come. Let us see what you are truly capable of." And with that, they moved forward together, human and alien, teacher and student, shield and technician, ready to face the challenges that awaited. Evan was still learning, still growing, and still a little afraid. But for the first time, he understood that bravery was not the absence of fear. It was action despite it. And Lyra, the alien warrior who had pulled him against her shield, would be there every step of the way, guiding him, challenging him, and showing him that even a human could stand strong in a world that had seemed impossible to survive. The sky over the alien world had turned a dull orange, the sun sinking behind jagged mountains, casting long shadows across the camp. Evan's muscles were sore from days of training, but he felt a strange sense of readiness. He had learned to trust his instincts, to act without hesitation, and to rely on the guidance of Lyra. Yet nothing could prepare him for what was coming. Without warning, alarms blared across the camp. Red lights flashed, and the sound of distant engines filled the air. The alien warriors moved instantly, their drills turning into a real battle. Evan froze for a moment, his heart hammering. He had been in training exercises, yes, but this was real. The threat was not simulated. "Evan, move!" Lyra shouted, appearing beside him in an instant. Her shield was raised, her eyes scanning the horizon. She grabbed his arm and pulled him close, just like she had done during their first ambush. "Stay with me. Watch my movements and do exactly as I do." Evan nodded, trying to steady his breath. The enemy forces were approaching quickly, ships descending from the sky, alien drones hovering ominously above the battlefield. The air was filled with the hum of energy weapons and the distant roar of engines. The first wave of attackers struck the perimeter. Explosions rocked the ground, sending dust and debris flying. Evan stumbled but felt Lyra's shield pressing against him, steadying him, keeping him from falling. Her presence was a constant, grounding him amid the chaos. "Now!" she shouted. Evan followed her lead, using his scanner to detect energy fluctuations. He spotted a drone about to fire at one of the younger warriors and shouted a warning. Lyra deflected the attack with her shield, and Evan helped guide the warrior to safety. The battle was relentless. The enemy forces were stronger and faster than anything Evan had trained for. His mind raced, his hands shaking as he activated energy barriers and repaired damaged panels on the defensive structures. Each task required precision and quick thinking, and he realized that his human problem-solving skills were just as important as the alien's strength and combat experience. At one point, a blast hit near Evan, knocking him off his feet. He landed hard on the ground, winded and shaken. Before he could rise, Lyra was there, grabbing his arm and pulling him close against her shield. The metal pressed into his back, protecting him from another incoming shot. Her eyes met his, and for a brief moment, the chaos of the battlefield faded. "You survive by moving with me!" she shouted over the explosions. "Do not freeze!" Evan forced himself to his feet, adrenaline coursing through him. He followed her movements, leaping over debris, dodging energy blasts, and helping others along the way. His fear was still there, but it was tempered by a newfound courage, a courage that Lyra had nurtured in him through her relentless training. The enemy had set traps along the perimeter, and Evan quickly realized that his scanner could detect them before they activated. He rushed to one trap, a series of energy beams set to block a key pathway, and worked quickly to disable it. Sparks flew as he adjusted the settings, his hands moving with a speed and confidence he had never known before. Lyra was by his side the entire time, her shield deflecting incoming fire, her voice guiding him. "Good! Faster! You can do this!" The first wave of attackers began to retreat, but Evan knew it was only temporary. The enemy had more forces, and they were regrouping for a second strike. Sweat dripped down his face, mixing with dirt and grime, but he did not stop. He had learned to act, to trust himself, and to rely on Lyra. Suddenly, a group of enemy soldiers broke through a weak point in the defense. Evan spotted them and shouted a warning, but they were too fast. One of them aimed at him, and time seemed to slow. He froze for a fraction of a second. Then Lyra was there, pulling him tightly against her shield, deflecting the blast with ease. "You must act without hesitation," she shouted. "Do you understand?" Evan swallowed hard. "Yes, I understand." He pushed himself forward, using his scanner to find another path around the attackers. He guided 2 young alien recruits, showing them a safe way to regroup. Together with Lyra, they fought back, blocking attacks and protecting their fellow warriors. The second wave was even more intense. Enemy drones swarmed from above, firing energy beams that struck the ground and bounced dangerously close. Evan's heart pounded, but he focused on the patterns, using his human instincts to predict the beam's paths. He directed the warriors around him, helping them avoid injury while maintaining the integrity of the defensive shields. At one point, Evan became separated from Lyra. Panic rose in his chest, but he remembered her lessons. He took a deep breath and scanned the battlefield, looking for her movements, listening for her voice. He spotted her across the field, fighting off multiple attackers with strength and precision. Evan ran toward her, dodging debris and blasts. When he was close enough, Lyra reached for him, pulling him tight against her shield once again. "I told you to stay with me," she shouted, though her tone carried relief. "You must not be alone!" Together, they fought side by side. Lyra's strength and combat skills were unmatched, and Evan's quick thinking and technical expertise complemented her perfectly. He repaired broken barriers in the middle of combat, redirected energy flows to block attacks, and even managed to disable an enemy drone by manipulating its power source. The alien warriors began to notice Evan's contributions. They had always respected his human ingenuity, but seeing him act decisively in the middle of a real battle earned their admiration. Lyra glanced at him briefly, a small smile on her face. "You are learning quickly," she said, even as she deflected a blast with her shield. As the battle raged on, Evan realized something profound. He was no longer the shy, hesitant human who had arrived days ago. He was acting with courage, making decisions under pressure, and standing strong beside one of the most formidable warriors he had ever known. Finally, after what felt like hours, the enemy forces began to retreat. Their ships rose into the sky, leaving the battlefield in relative silence. The alien warriors cheered, their voices echoing across the camp. Evan's chest heaved, his body trembling from exhaustion, but he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Lyra released him from her shield, and for the first time she allowed a moment of calm. "You have done well, human," she said. "Today, you did not just survive. You fought. You protected. You proved that humans are not as weak as I once thought." Evan swallowed, still catching his breath. I couldn't have done it without you," he admitted, feeling both exhausted and proud. "You could," Lyra replied firmly. "I only guided you. The courage was yours. You surprised me, Evan. Truly." The other warriors gathered around, some clapping him on the back, others nodding in approval. Evan felt a warmth in his chest he had never known before. He had found a place in this world, among these aliens, and he had earned their respect. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the battlefield, Lyra approached him one last time. "Remember this, human. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite it. You have done well today, but remember, this is only the beginning. Greater challenges await, and you must be ready." Evan nodded, feeling the truth in her words. He had faced fear, chaos, and uncertainty, and he had survived. He had grown stronger, not just physically, but in spirit. And he knew that with Lyra by his side, guiding and challenging him, he could face anything. That night, as Evan lay in his chamber, he replayed the day in his mind. Every blast, every decision, every moment of fear and courage. He realized that he had changed. The shy, hesitant human was gone. In his place was someone who could act under pressure, think quickly, and stand strong, even against overwhelming odds. and he knew that tomorrow and the days after would bring new tests, new dangers, and new opportunities to grow. With Lyra's guidance and his own determination, Evan was ready to face them. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be brave. And he knew that together, he and Lyra could overcome anything that this alien world, or any enemy, threw at them. The alien sun had barely risen over the jagged horizon when the camp stirred to life. Evan stretched his stiff muscles, feeling both soreness and anticipation. Yesterday's battle had changed him. He no longer felt like a shy, helpless human who stumbled behind alien warriors. He felt capable, stronger than he had ever imagined. Lyra was already awake, inspecting the defenses along the perimeter. She looked as formidable as ever, her armor glinting in the morning light, her shield strapped firmly to her arm. Evan approached her cautiously, unsure whether to speak first or simply follow her lead. "You are early," she said, her voice firm but with a hint of acknowledgement. "Good. Today we face tests that are not drills. The enemy may return. You must be ready." Evan nodded. I am ready," he said, though a small part of him still felt the old fear. But he did not show it, not in front of her. They moved together across the camp, checking weapons, energy shields, and barricades. The other alien warriors watched them with respect. Evan could see it in their eyes. They recognized that he had changed. He was no longer just a human assistant. He was a participant, a contributor, someone who could stand alongside Lyra when it mattered most. The peace was short-lived. Alarms blared suddenly, piercing the morning calm. Enemy ships had returned, larger and more organized than before. Drones swarmed the skies, firing energy blasts that struck the ground with terrifying force. "Evan, stay with me!" Lyra shouted, grabbing his arm and pulling him close to her shield. The vibrations from a nearby blast rattled through them both. "Do not freeze! Move!" Evan nodded, his heartbeat pounding. He remembered Lyra's lessons: trust instincts, act without hesitation, protect those who cannot protect themselves. He was not the same human who had panicked on his first day. He was ready. They moved through the battlefield as a single unit. Lyra led, striking and blocking attacks with precision. Evan followed closely, using his scanner to detect enemy movements and traps. He guided the younger alien warriors, directing them around dangerous areas and helping repair broken energy barriers. At one point, a massive drone descended directly above them, its energy cannon locking onto the group. Evan froze for a moment, but Lyra was there, her shield raised high. "Trust me!" she shouted. She blocked the blast, the impact sending vibrations through Evan's body, yet he held fast, his grip tightening on the shield as he steadied himself. Then came the critical moment. A group of enemy soldiers broke through a weak point in the defenses. Evan spotted them and immediately analyzed the situation. Using a damaged control panel nearby, he reactivated a dormant energy barrier just in time, cutting off their path. Lyra noticed his action and gave a sharp nod. Together, they corralled the attackers, blocking their advance and protecting the camp. Evan realized how far he had come. The shy, hesitant human who had clung to Lyra's shield was gone. In his place stood someone capable of thinking quickly, acting decisively, and facing danger with courage. He felt a surge of pride, not arrogance, but pure confidence. He was helping, contributing, and making a difference. The battle raged for hours. Evan and Lyra moved seamlessly together, a combination of strength and intelligence. She deflected attacks, striking with precision, while he used his technical skills to manipulate the battlefield, guiding the warriors and controlling defenses. Each attack they blocked, each enemy they repelled, strengthened their bond. Finally, after a long, exhausting fight, the enemy began to retreat. Their ships rose into the sky, leaving the battlefield quiet once more. Dust and smoke hung in the air, and the alien warriors cheered, rallying around Evan and Lyra. The young human had earned their respect. Lyra lowered her shield, breathing heavily, but her eyes were bright with pride. "You did well, Evan," she said. "Better than I expected. You acted with courage, skill, and intelligence. You proved that humans are not weak." Evan exhaled, feeling the tension leave his body. I couldn't have done it without you," he admitted. "You could," Lyra replied firmly. "I guided you, yes. But the strength, the bravery, it was yours. You acted when it mattered. You protected those who could not protect themselves. That is true courage." For the first time, Evan felt a deep sense of belonging. He had been accepted, respected, and valued. Not for who he had been, but for what he had become. And Lyra, the alien warrior who had pulled him against her shield when he was paralyzed by fear, had been his guide and mentor every step of the way. As the alien warriors celebrated their victory, Lyra turned to Evan. "You have learned much, human. But remember, courage is not a single act. It is a choice you make every day, in every moment. You must continue to act, to protect, to grow. That is how you become more than you imagine." Evan nodded. "I understand," he said. I want to keep learning. I want to keep standing beside you." Her expression softened, a rare sight. She extended her hand and placed her shield beside him. "Then you will. From this day forward, you are not just a technician. You are my partner in battle and in life. Trust in yourself and trust in us. Together, we can face anything." Evan felt a warmth in his chest. He took a deep breath and nodded. Yes, together. The days that followed were quieter but filled with purpose. Evan continued to train, refining his skills and learning more about alien strategies, technology, and combat techniques. Each day, he grew stronger, more confident, and more capable. The shy human who had once hesitated and feared every step was now decisive, intelligent, and respected. Lyra remained by his side, guiding, challenging, and protecting him. Their bond deepened, built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and trust forged in the fires of battle. They were no longer just warrior and human. They were partners, equal in courage and commitment. One evening, as the alien sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the camp, Evan and Lyra stood together on a hill overlooking the battlefield. The air was still, the ground quiet after days of chaos. "You have changed," Lyra said quietly, her eyes scanning the distant horizon. "You are no longer the same human who arrived here. You act with courage, you think with clarity, you are remarkable." Evan smiled, a little shyly but with confidence. "I had a good teacher," he said. "You showed me what it means to be brave, to act, to trust myself." Lyra tilted her head slightly, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "And you have surprised me. Humans are unpredictable, yes, but you have shown me that even the smallest, seemingly weakest human can stand strong. You inspire me, Evan." The words filled him with a strange pride. He had never imagined that a human could earn such respect, such acknowledgement, from one of the strongest alien warriors in the galaxy. And yet, here he was. As night fell and the stars emerged in the alien sky, Evan and Lyra stood together, looking out over the world they had fought to protect. He knew that challenges would continue, that danger would return, and that new tests awaited him. But he also knew that he was no longer alone. With Lyra by his side, he could face anything. With her shield, her guidance, and her unwavering presence, he had learned to stand tall, to act with courage, and to believe in himself. He had grown from a shy, hesitant human into someone capable of bravery and action in a world far beyond his own. And in that moment, Evan understood something that went beyond training, beyond battles, beyond fear. Strength was not just about power or skill. It was about trust, courage, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. It was about standing with someone who believed in you and believing in yourself. He turned to Lyra, who watched him with quiet pride. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "For showing me that I could do more than I ever imagined," he replied. "For pulling me against your shield when I needed it most. For teaching me to be brave." Lyra's expression softened. "You have done the work, Evan. I only guided you. But yes, I will admit it. You have grown. You have become someone worthy of standing beside me." Evan felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He had survived battles, faced fear, and grown in ways he had never thought possible. And through it all, he had gained more than skill or courage. He had gained trust, respect, and the bond of partnership with someone extraordinary. As they walked back to the camp together, side by side, the alien sky above them shimmering with stars, Evan knew that this was only the beginning. Many challenges awaited, but he was ready. He was no longer the shy human who had stumbled into an alien world. He was Evan, the human who had learned to stand tall, to fight, and to trust himself. And with Lyra by his side, he would face anything. Together, they were unstoppable.